Ready to go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sam Stevenson podcast. Today, I have with me Mr. Cary Barfield of Southern Oak Construction Group, not Southern Oak Construction, not to be confused. So, Cary, tell me, what is the difference between a construction group and a construction company?
Well, they're basically the same. We started our company back in 2020, and I say we. When I say we, I'm referring to myself and my wife. We were raised and grew up in Southwest Louisiana. And when we moved over here, I was in construction, working mainly commercial, and did that, raised two kids. And she has been on me probably since 2006 to start our own. But that's a big step to take. So, yeah. So took that opportunity to get a lot more experience through other companies. And then 2020 rolled around, we were set and ready. And I guess the pandemic gave us time to research and get everything in line. And we pulled the trigger. So we got incorporated July 14th in 2020. And with that, we just wanted to incorporate kind of like our heritage, our background, where we came from, the type of styles that we grew up with. But also knowing that we're here in Texas and we're a custom home builder. So a lot of our spec homes, you'll see some European, French influence into them.
From Louisiana.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But, with that being said, we get a lot of compliments. And then I'd say 95% of the custom homes that come to us with their own plans and ideas don't fit that mold. They're
Sure.
not used to that.
Sure.
But the group part just came in because we love the Southern Oak Construction part of our name. And we put group on there to distinguish us from others.
Sure.
There's a couple of Southern Oaks around the country. And our logo has a nice oak tree on it, which is actually based off an oak tree, or was based off an oak tree at my wife's aunt's house in Southwest Louisiana.
Got it. I was gonna ask where did the oak part? What's the significance of the Southern Oak?
Yeah, it was a beautiful oak tree. There's plenty of them around where we grew up in Southwest Louisiana. So with that being said, we love the tree. We incorporated it in there, just kind of more of a Southern symbol, and reminder of home.
That makes sense. What was it like transitioning from working at other construction companies and learning their skills versus you're going to enter the world on your own?
Right.
What was that transition like?
So it's always invaluable to learn skills, right? So I was learning skills. I was learning methods. I was learning the terminology of construction as well. And just picking up what I needed. The biggest change going to our own construction company is, and I've had this conversation with my wife, is when I work for somebody, most of the time when you leave, you can turn it off. You get that little downtime. What I realized really quick in 2020 is there's no turn off. So I go to sleep thinking of it. I wake up thinking of it. We're on vacation. I'm thinking of it. So it's a constant phone ringing, texting, on site. If you're not on a particular site, something's going on at another site. So with that, we're learning now what's the next phase for Southern Oak Construction Group, meaning as we're growing, what's the right time to bring on the right team members to help us expand our growing business and make sure we still deliver a product that we're able to have our fingerprints on. And
right.
That's big for us. We want to be heavily involved on the, all projects, but mainly on the custom for sure, because the way we look at it, people are valuing, trusting us to come in with a dream home that they're looking for, which is a lot of time, a lot of stress on everybody's part, and a lot of money. So we take that serious, and we want to make sure that we're there. We're every step of the way with them.
Right. How do you it's tough to be there every step of the way. I mean, as I've only built like as a builder two spec homes at the same time. And I can't, I mean, it was almost a full-time job just doing one property. So like how do you balance the being able to give everybody the proper level of attention? Because that's tough.
Right. It is tough. It is. So fortunately, when we've had multiple units going, we've been in the same geographic area. Maybe a couple of neighborhoods apart has been the longest when we have multiples going. But for the most part, same streets. So we're able to bounce back and forth.
Perfect.
And I say we. So I have help with my wife, and she knows all the interior parts of it. So she can go and have those discussions when we're talking about finishing out and punching out, and make sure we have the correct tile shows up from the supplier, so the guy that's installing the tile doesn't just put an entire bathroom in that should have been in the other bathroom.
Right.
So all that means you got to be there, somebody that knows the project. And we also we've taken a more aggressive role. We're trying to get our daughter more involved. She works with us on the side, but as we're growing, we're expecting more out of her as well.
Sure.
Take on more roles.
Yeah. What does the growth feel like in a builder? It's just like you get more people who are like, hey, I want you to build my house.
Yes.
How do you know where your capacity is?
Right. So that would be my gauge. So I guess what that would be is like every business is going to be different because everybody has a different structure. They have different talent levels. So I am the driving force for Southern Oak Construction Group, meaning I'm the one that's signing the deals. I'm the one that's going through with our trades and our vendors and going through all the purchases and then the expectations of the quality as well when we're building a home. So when I start feeling it redlining is not that difficult. I've been in high pressure, high stress positions in the past, and this is one of them now. And the way I just look at it is, yes, we're revving up the engine, but is it still manageable? You know, does it fluctuate back down so you get to reset for a second and set up a new schedule? That's where we are right now. Now, if we peg out or stay red too long, that's my indication that we're going to have to bring on some more help. Okay.
And where do you look for, like when you're going to fill a role, how do you, what's the role that needs to be filled first? I presume you're in charge of, you're the owner, you're in charge of sales. You're going to be managing, directing all of these things. So like, what is not like the bottom level, but like, what is the entry level of person that can help a builder?
Right. So, the easy answer, and man, you must have been listening into our conversations around our discussion table for business, because these are things that we are actually experiencing right now. And we're having these conversations, and it started off with what comes first. Do we build the workload and then hire, or do we hire to build the workload? And it really comes back to what's the need, right? What does our business need right now? And I can come back to what's keeping us busy during this economic time. But my answer to that question was, let's build, let's get more customers. Let's get more ground up, start at dirt and do a construction project from dirt up. And I can explain that in a minute as well.
Okay.
So where I find importance, and when I'm looking at it through those lens, it would be, how do we get somebody to market, sell, get our name, our brand, our abilities to people looking for a new home? So that's tough, and I don't know how I find that yet. We're still looking. We haven't hired, but that's what's on the radar, is finding out, how do we get somebody to get us where we need to be, whether we're spending money on advertisement. What's the right avenue for that advertisement? Is it radio?
Right.
Is it social media more? Do we need help on websites? Do we need to be on a billboard? I don't know those answers, but what would an investment bring back to us
Right.
for more customers. And with that, going to the other side, the easy answer is if you have the work, how do we get somebody to step into a probably more of a superintendent role that can come in and they already understand construction. They can learn our process. They can learn our standards. They can see potential problems before they actually happen, or if a problem's happening, have the ability to stop it and correct it before it goes too far. And replacing an item in the beginning compared to a finished walkthrough of a house is a lot cheaper to catch it up front. So,
right. Could you explain briefly to the audience what a superintendent means?
Yeah. So a superintendent would be kind of like going back to the original part of this discussion. How do you touch each house? How are you there when you're managing multiple houses? Well, with the right person, knowing their skill set and their capabilities, their bandwidth, one house would be easy, right? We put them on that house. They're there in the morning. They see what trade's coming up. They've already planned it. That trade's there. They get them moving, but then they're thinking 3 more steps. After this guy's finishing up in 2 days, who's coming in next? Can I bring them in early? Can we work multiple trades in here? Really just managing on site the day-to-day production of that house would be somebody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you mentioned you were going to explain ground up.
Yeah.
What was that about?
So ground up in my eyes is we purchase land ourselves, or somebody comes to us and they own a piece of land, and we start with a set of plans that you provide us, and we go, here we go. That's great. Maybe they don't even have plans. We get them in touch and we do that process, but we start and we build a structure for them, whether it's a house, an addition to on the back of the house, or whatever. What I'm finding now is the last at least 2 years, that the new construction definitely has slowed. There's inventory out there for existing homes, and with the economic condition, of interest rates and, some time of uncertainty in the market, that existing homes have decreased in their selling prices, which makes it nice for some. And construction material has not decreased. So to build right now is pretty pricey. So with that being said, what we've kind of, I don't know if we migrated or what found us. I think it more like found us, because we weren't looking for it at the time, or some high-end remodels.
Okay.
So when I say high-end remodels, we'll do custom homes or spec homes, from $2 million to $4 million. So now we're getting some of these homes in that same type of neighborhood that are looking to do some upgrades, whether it's just kitchen, bathrooms, or we're doing several. There's complete home remodels where we're taking out walls, we're adding walls, replacing the texture on the walls. So we'll come in and clean off all the existing texture and retexture a house. Yeah, it's been interesting, and with that, it brings its own challenges. So,
of course,
yeah, it's work, and it's good work, and we're happy to have that, and we can see that come together. But we're learning different skill sets on setting expectations with customers, because some of them don't even have actual plans. So they just come in and say, here's what we want. And we're taking notes. And then we're running into something behind the wall that couldn't be seen until you get behind the wall.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's just like HGTV. It does happen. You start tearing things apart and there's a surprise.
Right.
So that's interesting. And we have to set the right expectations. And on those, we put contingency budgets in there just so they know, hey, that money, remember we talked about, is set aside because we didn't know what we're going to run into. And then when we run into it, the shock value for the customer is alleviated a little bit. We're like, look, we didn't know what we were going to hit, but this money was sitting there.
Yeah.
So that helps. But with the remodels, I find them extensive on time.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was a learning experience. Some customers try to stay in the house while we remodel a little bit too long. because it's uncomfortable. They don't have a place to go, or
Sure.
they're trying to figure out how do we do this. But you can just imagine when you start taking walls down or sanding off existing texture on a wall and replastering a wall, what type of dust and noise and mess that makes. So it's challenging.
How, out of curiosity, I've never heard of somebody like, I don't like the texture on my wall. I would like to pay lots of money for it to be retextured.
So
what does that look like?
So what we're running into with that is typically someone buys a house that's in a nice neighborhood that they've wanted to live in for whatever reason. And then when they get in there, these houses might have been built in the, early mid 2000s, and it's just not what they're looking for. And we have guys that do really nice texture, high-end texture walls, where it'll be a level 5 and it'll be smooth and it's looking for a modern look on their wall, or what we call in our group, we call it the Santa Fe drag, which is with a trowel, and it leaves a little bit of mark and a little bit of texture behind, but it's really smooth and just a good Southwest or contemporary hill country look for a wall.
Okay. What would you say? Because it's challenging when you're in business and you're operating under a certain type of customer, type of project. When you change categories, whether the market demands it or not, like that brings with it unknowns and extra costs. So how does a builder navigate remaining focused on something and knowing when to like refocus on something else?
Yeah, great question. So really, I would say the way we started our mission, we started our company with the mission of being a custom builder. And with that, we were doing some spec homes to get noticed and get our name out there, which was all successful. We're building these high-end homes, and we're meeting people, and we build these relationships, and a customer start having a conversation, whether it be their own business or, hey, my brother, family member, friend has this business and they need to build this shop for these large trucks. Is that something y'all can do? And yes, we can do anything, So with that, we started looking at, in our business, of not our core focus is custom homes, but we're looking at, we can do small commercial jobs. I mean, commercial work was my background. So
sure,
we don't shy away from that. And we've done a couple of those. And then the market in the last 2 years is what dictated us really just opening up to remodels.
Okay.
And now with that being said, we've learned so much, and we get more used to the unknowns. We're kind of like figuring out the unknowns. The unknowns are becoming not unknown, but possibilities. And so now we're comfortable doing that we're talking about, do we start making it in our marketing and in our website? Do we actually show that we're diverse, and do we show that, yes, we do custom homes. Here's a section that you can go look at our product. We'll do small commercial work if you're interested in that. Here's a section, and we can do, total home remodels as well.
Okay. As a business principle, do you think diversity in custom home building, do you think customers value diversity over focus? Like, for example, if you were looking for a sub, would you rather have a plumber sub who does residential, commercial, repairs, yada, 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 or like a sub who's like, I do strictly new construction?
Right. Yeah, that's a fair question. That's a good question. First and foremost, we look at the quality. But yes, I think there is some good points of focus, and that's why we haven't pulled the trigger of actually siloing and all this and putting it out there yet. So going back to, when do you hire? Who do you hire? I think that's a good point as well. So we hire people that, person A is going to do this small commercial projects for us.
Got it.
And then we can have that conversation where you're getting person B, and this is their experience in doing custom homes for the last 15 years. And here's our products that we put out. and here's custom C. If we want to do a remodel, person C, if you want to do a remodel, here's what they've done and here's what we can do. So,
okay. I could see how they're both valuable. I had a question on the tip of my tongue. Give me a second. Doing it live. I was going to ask about, just totally spaced. Give me a second. It'll come to me.
You got it.
We were just talking about, it was at the beginning of what we were just talking about. Oh, focus. Oh, okay. Got it. So I heard a story about a glass installation company for home building.
Mm-hmm.
And this company did everything that was custom glass in the house. And so they were doing the shower doors, they were doing special windows, they were doing, anywhere else that they were doing special glass.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the employees of the glass company realized that, hey, when we do shower door installs, our profit margin is like, 40% versus all the other work we're doing is like 20%. Mm-hmm. So this particular employee was like, well, I'm going to start a business just doing shower doors. And I'm just going to focus on that one thing because I know how the numbers work. Mm-hmm. And so he went off and left the company, did his own thing, and just did the glass doors and turned it into this monster business because he was so focused on that one like special piece. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, in the home building world of the types of projects you could do, is there one type of projects that it's your shower glass door? That like you work with your best kinds of customers that you like working with the most. The profit margins are great and healthy. Mm-hmm. Everybody's happy. Mm-hmm. You're able to deliver the best because you have the most expertise. Right. What would you say is the magic bullet?
I'd say we're doing a custom home. It's going to be 4,000 square feet and up. So with that, you're getting to a price point that we're allowed to put in top grade materials. So the finished product on a finish out is going to look like what you're putting in as the finished product. So if we have good finishes, it's going to pop at the end. I think that customer knows what they want. They're prepared to spend what they need to spend to get that type of house. And, that's probably the wheelhouse of everybody being, more on the same page as far as the finished product, the products that are going in there, and the cost to actually pull that kind of project off.
Sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. So earlier we were talking about acquisition of customers. Mm-hmm. Is most of the growth, would you attribute it to referral? Or is there like we pay a big chunk for ads and that drives a lot of leads? What would you say it is for you guys?
So the most of our growth, I would say, has been referral, and we've gotten a lot of good customers from having spec homes in high-end neighborhoods on golf courses. So so in Georgetown, there's a neighborhood, Cimarron Hills, and it's a great golf course community. And back in 2020, when we got incorporated, we were, let's say, savvy, could be lucky, but fortunate enough to pick up a couple of lots in there. And we did 2 spec homes. And with that, we have our sign out front. It's a custom neighborhood. There's no production builders per se.
Okay.
And so every house is unique for the most part. So we got to put Southern Oak style onto these 2 spec homes, and it would get foot traffic in while we were building. And because I am hands-on, most of the time I'm there when people are walking through, and it's not a bad thing. I welcome them.
Of course,
come in, let's look around. We may be framing, so watch your head, but let's talk about what we're doing and what our next steps are. So we have conversations, and we like meeting people. So that's been the biggest one. We haven't invested much into marketing, and that's where I think we have to figure out that step of it.
What would you say? I would imagine when you're a home builder, region is very important. Like the work has to be where you are physically, which kind of changes some of the dynamic around how you should advertise, right? You don't necessarily want to go onto Instagram and then start advertising to some guys in India. about you're building houses, right?
Right.
So I would imagine like this foot traffic that's coming into these neighborhoods is very important. Would you say at some point, maybe a few years ago, I realized like, oh, like the builders that are really got a good handle on building, it sounds like their biggest problem is getting the lots. If you can lock in some good lots, like, let me ask you this question. In every business, there's what everybody thinks the business is about, and then there's what the business is actually about. So in any service business, for example, you can be a good service business if you have a good quality product and you take care of your people and yada, yada, yada. But you can be a great service business if you figure out how to train, acquire employees, and grow. Yeah. So like in a gym, for example, gyms are not about having a nice gym. Big gyms are about marketing to people and getting them in the gym. Correct. So if you solve that problem, that's the real problem. So in home building, what's the business actually about? It's like, well, yeah, everybody wants you to be able to build a big house, but like, if you're really going to go to the moon with it, like, is there some like secret problem you have to solve?
So yes, I would say in my view, the hurdle is meeting you. I need to meet you. We need to have a conversation. I have to show you some product because you may like me, but if I can't prove that we can, or show you that we can build a good product, that doesn't mean anything. But we want to connect with customers. So we meet each other and we connect, and we understand that we're looking at a 12-month project here that we're going to be talking several times a day, and we're going to be having great discussions, and we're going to have difficult discussions because we may run into something. We may get delayed by weather, and all this has to be in an environment where we can communicate with each other, and we understand that we trust each other. You know, they have to trust me. They have to get to know me. So I would say getting in front of someone and having that ability to connect.
Okay.
And if somebody's only concern is the price of the product, then we're probably not the right construction company.
Sure.
Because that's part of it. And we want to be fair with everything we do. But there are people out there that will give you a price that looks good and then not deliver on the product, not deliver on time, or, you know, it's just a tough relationship.
Right.
And we don't want that. We want to run into you. We're around a small community in Georgetown, Texas, has a great downtown square, which a lot of restaurants and bars and just entertainment kind of area. We hang out there. If I see you on the square, I don't want to have to duck and hide.
Right.
You know, I want to come up to you and say, hey, how's the house going? Are you still enjoying it? Anything going on? You know, haven't heard from you or heard from you, you know, whatever, you know, just have that relationship, because we've been in that area since 2000, and we raise kids there, and we just want to make sure that we stand behind our product.
Yeah. I would imagine that is very, very important. The relationship building part, because it's like, you know, you're not going to buy this widget from Walmart and then leave. Right. Like, this is, like you said, you're going to be involved very intimately for a long time.
Yes.
And even after that, like, you're going to live in the house.
It's an emotional involvement.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're talking high dollars, and you're talking about your home. This is where your family is going to live. And we as a company take that serious.
Yeah. So it sounds like if that was the key of, like, we need to meet people, we need to be able to create and build and maintain those relationships. And if you do that, and referral is a great way to do that, of course, because people trust other people that they trust. Right. And so if there was a way, like, it's a lot harder for, maybe if you were going to try advertisement, like getting a video in front of someone's like, okay, they might start to recognize you, but they're not going to build a relationship with you over that. So, you know, what are the other ways you can create relationships? So, like, social media is a great way. You can build a following of people. I mean, it's tougher to make sure that you're targeting an area, for sure, local. But yeah, if you can create a following and find ways to be involved in the community and all that, that sounds like it's very high return stuff. People knowing you.
For sure. Yes. and just what you're hitting on, these are conversations, like I stated earlier. I think you've been sitting around our table when we have business discussions, because what is that the key? What's the first door to get us introduced? Then we build the relationship, but we got to figure out door one, and then get in front of people and have conversations and answer questions and show them product and make sure that we're connecting on both sides.
Sure. There's a book I read recently called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Highly recommend it to any business owner who is at that point where they're like, man, what is the next piece of this puzzle that's going to allow this business to grow? And the main argument made in the book is the owner's time is the most important, because he's like the spearhead. He is he's the tip of the missile guiding the direction of this business going up. Therefore, the thing that is the most valuable that will cause the growth to continue is to find out what is the thing that this owner's time is going to the most that can be replaced. And then if the owner buys back more of his time to redirect into like proper other things that are higher leverage, then it basically gives you a way to define who that person is that you should hire. Because what a lot of businesses do is they think about, okay, we have all these things that we allocate resources to. There's all these jobs that make this business operate. So it's like, well, let's find a guy who can do tasks A through F. And then we're going to make a role for that guy and he's going to do that. But let's say if, so this business is between you and your wife, right? So if arguably, if you're the tip and you're doing most of the like sales and meetings and directing, then if you hired somebody who filled a bunch of roles and took a bunch of work off of your wife's table and gave her time to do other stuff, that could be helpful, but it's not going to be as high leverage necessarily as someone who can help you get more time.
Sure.
So like that's kind of the argument. What's your take on that? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we've done a small portion of that in the last year. And what I mean by that is we actually, I guess we haven't brought her on, but we hire her as needed, just another consultant to help with selections. Because what I was finding is, I could spend several days out of the week sitting in a showroom with, a family looking at lights and countertops and tile and plumbing fixtures. And the whole time my phone is going off and I'm like, well, I have framers or I have a slab being poured and I need to be there. We got to make sure that the other jobs are moving and scheduled out. Yeah. And my wife, Michelle, she does a great job of doing that. Now she's a full-time high school counselor right now and limited on her time until this time of year, which she's full-time with me now.
Sure.
So, which is summers I love, but she's only, I don't know how much longer, but when she retires, she'll be doing that with us more often.
Okay.
But with that being said, we have a lady who's great. She understands our business. We've known her for years and she's got a great eye and can deal with customers in a way that we approve of, meaning, they interact well and they build that trust, which is valuable in our company. So that's been handed off. So that does free up my time during the, school year. And then it frees up Michelle's time also during the summer.
Sure.
So that I'd say that was a first baby step, but I like the way you put it. There's a lot more we can start looking at to, and like you pointed out, great point. By going through that type of exercise and that type of flowing of thought process, it's kind of going to answer the question that we started with, who do we hire?
Right.
So, yeah.
That makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me. We're sitting here talking about it. I was like, well, that was real easy to figure out.
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and the great part is that honestly, I totally recommend the book because it not only tells you the strategy, but it says like, do these actions. Sure. And it will help you. Like he's got in there this time and energy audit. So for over like, a week to 2 weeks, you write down every 15 minutes of where your time is going throughout the day, everything. And then after you've done that, you add like, there's 2 other columns. There's a $sign column. Like is this making me no money, or is this making me lots of money? And then there's like an energy column, which is like, do I love doing this? And do I just drains my energy to do this. And then what you do after that is you now have a list, and you highlight in green all the things that make you lots of money that you love doing. You highlight in red all the things that you can't stand doing that don't make you any money. And then you can basically break everything out super easy into these little 4 quadrants, and you can see where your time like energizes you, which activities energize you, which activities drain you. And the idea is like you backfill all the stuff that's sucking the energy out of you. And I will say personally that it's stressful and risky, but on the same side, like one of the things that a business owner is, the most successful business owners are the ones who can just like basically shut up and listen to the guys that are better than them.
Oh yeah.
If they're making more money, they're doing something right.
Right.
And so I kind of had to shut up myself a little bit and be like, all right, I'm going to try this thing. And I will say that not only does your, like, if you stopped doing all of the things that like, they're just not important to you, like the things that suck your energy, that don't make you money. If you just realized, oh, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Not only do you have more time, but the time you do have is higher energy. Sure. You're going to be better at doing all the things you were already good at. So on the subject of things you're already good at, I would argue that like a business's growth capability is capped by the skill level of the owner. So what do you think is your next skill that you need to unlock to like reach that next level? Is it, like sales or networking, or maybe I need to learn about social media, or, what do you think is that next piece that's missing?
The quick and easy answer for me right off, because it's on top of my mind, would be the sales marketing, right? So making sure that we're in the front of the right people, we're having the right conversations, and we're able to, lack of a better term right now, vet customers as well when we're having conversations, meaning, they want this house. Do they understand what that's going to take? Meaning time, cost, all of it. Is this really what we're talking about? Because you can spend a lot of time in the upfront preliminary stages, and then all of a sudden you go to, okay, here's our quote. Well, oh my gosh, I mean that's double what I thought it should be.
Yeah.
And I love that comment. It's not what I was thinking. Well, what was your thoughts based on?
Yeah.
We're doing this every day.
Yeah.
I mean, have we listened to the local the national economic news? I've already got notices on price increases for garage doors because of aluminum tariffs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So price increases are real. Costs are real. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about those up front. And that way we could save some time,
Yeah. Do you think, I would imagine in the relationship building aspect, that being able to speak and making that like in-person conversation very important?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Because we're not trying to take it lightly. I mean, we understand, and maybe there's something we can do to get you what you want to do within the budget that we're looking at, that you can't afford. We can try.
Yeah. How does somebody who is going to approach the idea of getting a custom home, how do they how's that first conversation go? Ballparking numbers, like how does someone know even where to start?
Right. The first question that we're always asked, which is the worst question, is what do you charge price per square foot to build a house?
Why is that the worst question?
Worst question. Because, what do you want in the house? I mean, there's a billboard in the hill country part of Texas that we'll drive by when we're going out to the lake or visiting friends. And I cringe every time I see it. And it's the biggest billboard you could rent. And it says custom home starting at $75 a square foot.
No.
It's there. I should take a picture of it. I'm like, how is this?
They built it with popsicle sticks.
Exactly. I was like, how is this not illegal to even say that? I mean, you can't get the framing out there for 75.
Well, they understand that they're getting attention.
Yes.
So
yes, exactly. Well, and that's not what we want to do.
Yeah, you don't want the kind of customers that are looking for that.
Well, and I don't want to be that type of person that it's basically a bait and switch,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to do that. So with that being said, when I say that's a tough question, or not even a tough, really it's the wrong question. What type of home are we talking about? What type of material are we putting on the house? Are we doing a traditional roof? Are we doing a tile roof? Are we doing metal roof?
Mm-hmm.
Our standard for Southern Oak Construction Group is we do foam insulation, and we foam insulate all exterior roof and the garage as well. Or somebody else just talking about doing standard bat insulation, which is fine, but what are we talking about? And then you get into the house. What type of flooring are we putting in? What type of countertops are we doing? We do custom cabinets. But even with custom cabinets, are we painting the cabinets? Are we stain grade? All those have a dollar amount attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
which can drive that price per square foot anywhere from $225 a square foot to $425 a square foot. I mean, it's choices. And that's why I like to say, well, let's talk about, and this is where we're going to spend a little bit more time up front and say, ask questions. What are you thinking? What are we doing? What type of material? And then we can get a range, but we're very cautious to say that because it's just a range until we put everything on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Setting the wrong expectations is something we work hard to avoid. We want to make sure that we're as transparent as possible. So
That makes sense. There's so, like you just said, like there's so much packed into that price per square foot number. Sure. And it's not just like the grade of the materials. No. It's, are your subs good?
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like I saw a video the other day from someone who's made a video about $300,000 house,
mm-hmm.
and they had a laser on the wall, and they showed that the wall was bowing.
Oh yeah.
And it was framed. And it's like, well, yeah, if you went and found the cheapest framer, like they're going to want to slap that puppy together as fast as possible.
Yes.
And like, those are things that you just can't describe
right.
unless someone has seen it.
There's a high-end builder out of Houston area, and she does Instagram posts, and I follow builders. I like mm-hmm. to see what everybody's doing. And she made a comment the other day, and I was like, first she kind of took me back, but I was like, well, I get it. And her price point, you ask like, what's her wheelhouse? She's high end in the Houston market, but she said $10 million home is where that's the sweet spot for her, because she has clients that are going to put good material in on their finishes,
mm-hmm.
and she can get the best subs at that price point. She's paying for the best subs, and the clients at that price point want the best subs.
Right. Generally speaking, I would imagine once you go over $4 to $5 million house, like very customized, yes. You're getting the kinds of people that, like, if they go to a property and there's already some, $5 million house on it, they don't really like it, it's going to be cheaper for them to destroy that house right. and start over with a new one, and they'll just pay it.
They do.
Yeah. So how do you balance, like, every builder likes to work things differently, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you guys approach the idea of how involved should the customer be? Like, you want them to be very involved because this is their home, but sometimes people's ignorance can make things worse for themselves. So if I was going to go build a house at this point, I know enough that I understand I don't know enough. Right. And so I wouldn't dare to say that I'm going to go to a builder and be like, I want this, I want this, I want this. I want to be able to find my toilet. I want to save my money here. I want to do this. I want to have this control, versus someone who's like, I'm going to go to a good builder. I'm going to pay him a higher premium. Right. And I know I'm going to be taken care of. And their guidance and their advice is something I'm also paying for. Right. How do y'all balance that approach?
So you just summed up the spectrum of a customer, right? So we have all those. We have ones that are, hey, we're going to pick our countertop selections, and I'm going to pick my paint color, and I'm going to stop in and see it. And if I have questions, I'll text you or call you, and we do our best to keep them updated on where we are in the process. And then we have customers that will walk in while we're putting up or taping and floating drywall and say that's not how they want it to look. And I'm like, well, we're taping and floating. We haven't started texturing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, we're not going to leave it like that. Right.
Yeah.
And
man.
so then I have on those customers have to explain that I need them to trust our process. This, what you just walked into is part of a process, which don't judge it until it's done.
Yes.
Now, when it's done, we're both going to judge it. And if we find flaws, we have no problem. We'll get that trade back in there. We're going to show them where we think is wrong. We'll have a discussion if there's a reason causing it. But either way, it's going to get fixed. We're not going to slap on a bad product. It's just there's so many different stories of those types of customers that we all encounter like that. And one of my best friends is a custom home builder as well in the Georgetown area. And we laugh. We go on vacation together. And we'll laugh. And he was telling me that they were hanging lights, pendant lights over a nice, bar in a $5 million home, and one of the fixtures was broken. Well, they had already called the light company, and the light company's like, hey, we can send a separate globe for that fixture. You don't just go ahead and hang it, and we'll get the globe to you. So he has it hanging there, and 2 of them have complete set, and one in the middle is just there with no globe and the bulb in it. And the customer was just irate that he was going to leave it like that. And she was talking to him, and he just looked at her and he goes, I think it's beautiful. That's what everybody's doing. And he just went along with it. Like,
that's
that was
terrible.
The finished product.
That's
and
hilarious.
Her face just keeps dropping like, no, I don't want this. And he finally had to tell, ma'am, we understand. It's being shipped to us.
Yeah. Wow, ribbing your customer.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And he can pull it off. He's got
the rapport.
He's got the personality to pull that off. Me, I'm like, no, it's ordered.
That's funny. That's funny. I have to so because of things like that, people don't understand how builders build.
Right.
A recent lesson I learned when I was doing these spec houses was one of the windows showed up, big old crack through it, just regular old 3050 window or something, and when we're building it, I was, I asked the guy who was kind of directing me in the process. I was like, this is broken. Like, we should not install it or whatever. And he's like, no, I'll just throw it in there. And then the window guy, they know it's broken. They recorded it was broken when it arrived. They're going to redo the pane of glass afterwards, after your siding is on, and your guys aren't likely to break the window again.
Right.
So it sat there broken for half of the process. And people don't understand hey, there's a reason we're going to do this differently. Right. What would you say is your hardest lesson you've had to learn, and or most expensive lesson in your whole, the whole time you've been in construction? Oops, we put the slab behind a setback and now we have to break it all and move it. Or
I'm trying to play this out in my head so I can protect the innocent here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we default to that.
Yeah. So no true names will be used.
A theoretical story.
There you go. Yeah, here we go. A hypothetical that probably did happen. Yeah. So we owned a piece of land, a lot in a high-end neighborhood, and we decided we were going to put a spec on that one. Oh my gosh, probably 21. Back in 2021, I sent some guys over there, and it's a quarter-acre lot, on a golf course, and cleared the lot. There was a group of, I call it scrub trees, in the middle where the house was going to go, and a group of oak trees up in one of the corners. I said, leave the oak trees. They're beautiful. Let's take out these scrub trees. And we did. And I had a customer approach me after I cleared the lot and said that they were going to move from Arizona and they wanted to build. And so I went ahead and got a permit for that. And the local entity gave me the permit to build. So everything was great. Well, then the economy started turning, and the Arizona couple didn't move. And I had this plan that I just modified to make it more spec friendly. And in the meantime, I had 2 more customs going on in a different neighborhood that were just starting on the same street. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to focus on those and not worry about the spec right now, knowing that the permit would expire. And it did. So fast forward year or so, finish those customs and come back. And I'm like, all right, we'll put the spec out here. Go back to the entity and applied for the permit again. And really quick, which is unusual, to get permits. Like within a week, I had my permit and everything was fine. A week later, I go and I look at it and I'm ready to get started. And the permit says it's in review, that it was revoked back and in review.
Oh,
yeah. And that never happened. Didn't understand. And I go to the permit department and talk to them. The lady's like, we gave you the permit. And I'm like, what? It says that it's in review. She pulls it up. She goes, oh, that's not us. That's the landscape department. And I'm like, I've never been doing this in this entity for ever. Never heard of the landscape, not even in this building. So I go to see the lady at landscape that has my permit on hold. And she starts telling me, she goes, all you have to do is change your plan and show me where you're protecting these trees. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. I said, well, these oak trees, I'll do that. You know, they're right here. She goes, no, these trees in the middle. And I was like, what? There was no oak trees in the middle. And she goes, no, there are 3 elm trees that share a trunk. And I was like, ma'am, I'm going to be honest with you. That's gone. I said, that's been going for, 3 years or something. And she goes, just show me how you're protecting it. And I'm like, it's gone. I don't know how to say gone any more clear.
Yeah.
And she just says, well, that's a problem. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a problem? She goes, they're protected trees. I was like, no way. When I bought these lots, I talked to the owner of the developer of the community. I talked to the cells, and I did a tree survey, and nothing on here is marked as heritage.
Yeah.
And man, this is a really long story, but come to find out, this particular development was on its roughly, I think, its 4th owner. So they'd been selling to different developers to keep it going.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, the first developer evidently had to have so many classified heritage trees. And he just randomly marked trees.
Oh, been there.
And then it gets better. So then somehow he had an agreement with this entity that they don't give to anybody else now, but he had this agreement that it wasn't his responsibility to do anything after he marked these trees as heritage. It was up to the builder and the homeowner or the lot owner to discover if that was protected.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking at her and said, I have a tree survey. How would I know? You wouldn't. And I was like, so what do I do now? She goes, you pay a $21,000 fine.
Yep.
And I about lost my mind. So for elm tree is the most expensive tree in my world now. So
yes.
So, and here's the deal. We're sitting on construction loans. We're sitting on subs. We're sitting on a market that could be starting to fall in the next 12 to 16 months. Am I going to sit here and fight this entity who doesn't have any sense of time? Or do I pay $21,000 and swallow the loss and keep going? Yeah. So that was a big lesson. So now when people talk about trees, I spend a lot of time figuring out who owns trees, what trees are protected. And
that's really funny. Do you want to hear a very relatable story?
Anything that makes me feel better about that.
It's not going to make you feel better, but maybe a little bit. So I used to work in San Antonio as a civil engineer, and my job was to get developers their tree permit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was the guy on the other side of that problem who was figuring out, oh, okay, these trees matter, these trees don't. We're going to fudge the numbers here. We're going to lie about this tree here. And I was the one making the tree preservation plans. We called those, right? Mm-hmm. And San Antonio is a crazy stickler, very expensive tree permits. So there's one developer was, bought this downtown lot, and he had something like 20 heritage trees on it. And so we had to make him a plan, and it took, like, I'm not kidding, 8 months to get this tree permit because there was so much back and forth. The developer hadn't accounted for that in the budget.
Right.
And the city was not backing down. And I was the engineer, and I was I went through the entire code 5 times. And I was like, I want to find every single crack in this code that I can use to save them this money. And we were able to get it down to about $200,000 to be able to clear the lot. And they still had to keep 2-3 foot trees. Yeah. And even the buildings had to be moved a little bit and adjusted. And they had to not only that, but they had to pay for a tree well, right? So they were going to get really close to one. So they had to pay to install a special retaining wall, keep a distance off the tree. And because they were so close to the tree, they had to pay for insurance on the tree. So now they're like, there was some, extra dollar fee that's like, because you might kill the tree.
It might die.
It might die. You're going to pay for insurance on it. So it's really funny that, not funny, but like painful.
Yeah. It's painful funny. I mean, it's I get the intent, and I'm all for doing the right thing and protecting as many trees as we can. But just like you said, some trees are just scrub trees. I mean, what are we protecting? And at what point do we even protect and stifle development? Another builder friend of mine, I was telling him a story. And he's like, he goes, I'm glad you shared it with me, because I was like, I don't want y'all to go through this. This is crazy, because they're in the same neighborhood. We don't know. I mean, we had a tree survey. We did not know. And he's like, I better check on this, because it is it's a beautiful oak tree. And it was on one of his lots he was about to build with. And I saw him 2 months later, and he said, I checked on that, and it is protected. He said, we're back with an architect, and now they basically built a horseshoe house around the tree. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I get it, but a tree's living, right? All living things die. We have some pretty bad storms come through, Central Texas. You're building a $3 million house with nothing but fall hazard, or, falling hazards in the middle of it to crush this house. And he's like, no other option, or we don't build on here. Right. So like, sometimes we lose a little bit of the logic, what we're trying to do. That's true. There's definitely, on the subject of bad storms. Yeah. There was, the developers are trying to make money. Yeah. They are almost purely investors moving huge amounts of money around, and they just got to make everything make sense. Right. And tree permits don't help with that. Right. And so frequently what will happen when a developer is like starting with a project, they've hired an engineer, they've figured out what the land's capable of, they're getting an architect together to put together some kind of layout to make sure the numbers make sense, street costs, so balancing all these things out before they've done anything. They haven't even opened any permits, none of that. And when you hire an engineering firm, one of the people whose job it is to know about trees is going to be like, hey, what trees do you got on your property? Because that can screw you. That can make huge number of differences. And one of the conversations that sometimes comes up is the engineers will say something like, hey, there are some trees on here that are very, very expensive to remove. We can't say the exact numbers because we have to draw it all out and do all the math. But it would be very unfortunate if there was some freak storm or lightning bolt that came through and, blew up a tree or two before we started this process, so that when you got a tree survey done, they didn't exist. And then all of a sudden, the trees magically are cleared. Yeah, through a storm. Yeah. Now, one of the hardest things is like, I had a guy who was doing this, and he basically bought the lot, wasn't concerned with permitting at all, and just cleared the whole thing. And so that puts the engineer in a tough spot, because now the engineer has to go to the city and claim like, hey, here's this raw piece of land. Here's the existing state when we found it. It's cleared. Therefore, they're not going to pay any tree fees because there's no trees here to destroy. And then you give that to the city. And when you do it, you have to show an aerial view. Sure. And so there's two ways to get an aerial view. You Google Maps, or you fly a drone and get like a top shot. And we chose in most cases to fly a drone because that's showing like the top view. And it's hilarious because like the drone is showing a clearly cleared lot. Like this does not look like raw land at all. Right. Like there's all this scrap brush everywhere. And like you're basically giving it to the city, and you're making a claim that like, yep, here it is, the raw land. And most, reviewers of the city don't care. So they'll just like run it through. But it's the people who, the other thing I wanted to mention, since you mentioned this developer change and all this stuff, as a builder, it's very important to know that developers, like I said, they're trying to make money. And there are lots of things that come up when you're replatting lots to subdivide, make streets and everything, that are like hiccups. And constantly
as engineers, we're directed to push that off to the builder. Like there's tons of stuff we write in the plat and on all the legal documentation that says responsibility of the burner, like the builder. Oh, when the builder pulls the permit, he has to solve this problem.
Right.
Constantly being pushed off to the builder.
Yep.
So like always watch out whenever you're buying land. Like what are all of the surprises that are waiting in there from the developer because he didn't want to pay for it.
No.
Yeah.
Quick turnaround for him.
Yeah. So man, that's a crazy story. Is those elm trees.
Yeah.
That is. What is like have you ever have a build just go perfectly? Or like a story that's like, man, this was just like one of the greatest projects I love doing.
Yeah, we do. And I'd say perfect's a strong word, but yeah. So I would say that even the majority of ours, knock on wood, have gone smoothly, Now, the opposite of that would be the build itself. There's one that we're still trying to help as best we can. The build itself was fine, normal hiccups here and there, but we got through everything. Well, it was another golf course, high-end home, and a very high-end appliance package. And it was a very cool house. So you had the kitchen with, all the normal appliances. Well, then behind her, we did a dirty kitchen is what we call that. And, basically a pantry. And it had swing doors on each side you could walk through, but that was a big space. And it had another dishwasher, refrigerator, microwave, just another kitchen in there. And basically every kitchen appliance you can think of, there was 2 of them, We have touched every appliance since we finished that house and they moved in, meaning there's been something wrong with every one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the actual appliance itself.
The actual appliance. Oh, something was wrong. And whether it was like we got a service rep that represented that the brand itself, not third party, and they came out and fixed it, or we've replaced both dishwashers, both refrigerators. One, we're on the second replacement of the same refrigerator.
Man, were these built-in column fridges? Oh my!
Oh, everything's
goodness.
high end.
Yeah,
and my supplier, and that's when you learn early on, if you're fortunate enough to pay attention and learn it, is a good supplier that's going to stand behind you, and they help push these manufacturers to get it right. And we use Ferguson Enterprise for appliances and lighting and plumbing fixtures. Top notch. Can't say enough good things about Ferguson. My outside representative, my inside sales coordinator, the showroom assistant that helps us pick out merchandise. I mean, everybody has stepped up, and knowing that for whatever reason, these appliance packages, and we have some thoughts, it was kind of post-COVID manufacturing, lack of quality control, maybe.
Okay. Got it.
Some of them, but and this has escalated because it's such a expensive house, and so many items have gone, the wrong way, that the appliance brand regional sales manager, so he's over all the Southwest of the U.S., has spoken to me directly and assured that we're on the last leg to get this all finished, and apologize. And I'm like, well, I get it. I'd rather you apologize to the homeowner. I'm going to be a returning customer to Ferguson. I don't know about that particular brand, but yeah, we just got to make it right for the people that are living that scenario.
Right.
So yeah, crazy.
That is nuts. I got a final question for you here.
You bet.
What advice would you give to anybody who's, about to get into the home building process? There's tons of types of builders. There's tons of types of construction.
Right.
Someone may not even know what they want. What should they start thinking about?
Okay. I something we all do or should do, we're talking about, I say all do. We live to build homes, into construction. So My wife and I, we look on social media, we look on the internet, we look for house plans just to get ideas. We go to Parade of Homes all across the country. We've been to Tennessee, and we're going to go to Utah, but we go across the country to look at other builders. We look at how they're building, what they're building, styles. We go to the International Building Show every year, Builder Show, to get ideas, to stay up on what's the latest, and whether it be product, appliance, technique, even, is there a better way to do something? Mm-hmm. So if you're preparing to build a house, just start educating yourself on what do you like? What's important to you? Is square footage important? Is the highest end quality finish for a certain room, or the whole house, or where can we build your custom home? When we say custom, we want to meet with you. We're going to ask questions. If you don't have a house plan, what we can do, and Sam, you've helped us here, and it's been great. We'll come with a sketch or an idea, and next thing you know, you're producing a buildable plan for us. So that's an option that we can do. Or if they come with a full set of plans and they're like, hey, we want this, then let's talk about, how do you want it to look when it's over? How do we make it your style? And really just have a general idea of what direction you want to hit. You may not know what you like, but you might know what you don't like. So tell us what you don't like. We'll stay away from that, and then we'll start narrowing. But I say have a direction. Some people that may be wider or more narrowed, but have a direction, and give us a call. We charge nothing to meet with you and discuss and see if we can get things lined out. And if we're a good fit for you and everything's right, we'll help you through the process.
Excellent. I love it. So where can everybody find you that sees this video?
So we have a website. It's southernoak.construction. You can go there. My email is Cary, Cary, at southernoak.construction. You can email me. And I think if you go to the website, we have a phone number you can call and reach out to us that way. Just
have a first conversation.
Yeah. Let's see what you're interested in. Our wheelhouse, I call it Central Texas Hill Country. So we're, the Belton, Temple, Salado would be, more central, or, down to Georgetown, Round Rock area. We've done stuff as far as out as Taylor, but we can also go to the Hill Country, which is Kingsland, Marble Falls area around Lake LBJ.
Okay.
We've done stuff out there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having us.
This has been
Appreciate
great.
Your service as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yep. Everything you do for us.
We'll see how maybe on the next time, maybe we'll bring your wife by.
Yeah. She can talk about, selections and finishes, and
that's a whole other animal.
Exactly. That's why I tried not to get in that one.
Yeah. Awesome. Be delighted to. All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
See you guys.